Hi there, you're welcome to yet another episode on the Youth Arena. It's always very exciting to tune in this program, and we trust that over the previous episodes you've been richly and greatly blessed with the information we've been dishing out. We've been on a series on how to grow your leadership influence as a leader. Influence is very important, and if you don't have an influence, or if you don't have influence over the people you are leading, then you are not a leader. I think it was John Maxwell that said, whenever a leader is leading and he discovers nobody is following him, he's merely taking a walk. So that's why it's important we learn how to grow our leadership influence. And we expanded it to not just leadership positions, but to our everyday life. These are things that when you apply in your relationship with people on a daily basis, you see the same results. And that's why we talked about the fact that being a leader is not necessarily about holding an office or holding a position. There are several persons you could know or we know that are very influential in an environment, but yet they are not in any leadership office as per se, per se like an office attached to it, a position attached to it. These are leaders, these are influencers, and every of God's creation is a leader and needs to learn how to grow his leadership influence. We've talked about a number of things: the need to have faith in people, the need to prioritize integrity, the need to listen to people, and we're going to be talking about something very, very important also, the importance of understanding. We're going to be talking about learn to understand. So another way to grow your leadership influence, or one other thing you must add to your cart of knowledge in growing your leadership influence, is to learn to understand people. We're going to kick off with a number of points, and then we'll move on from there. I'm going to share with you 6 things as a way of introduction, and then we'll move over to why most people fail to understand others, and we'll call it a wrap for this episode, looking on for the next episode. Okay, so number 1, the ability to understand people is one of the greatest assets anyone can ever have. It has the potential to affect every area of your life and your relationship. Now, just using yourself as an example, you will understand that things move smoothly. Your life seems to fall in place when you understand the people in your life. And then on the flip side, when you don't understand what's becoming of this person, or you don't understand what this person is communicating, once there's an understanding breakdown, there's wahala in the relationship. Okay, things don't move as smoothly as they're supposed to move. We are able to thrive as an organization and as a team because there's some level of understanding, and wherever there seems to be a misunderstanding, there seems to be friction until that issue is rectified. So it's very important. Understanding people is very important. It affects every area of our life, every area of our relationship. Number 2, understanding people certainly impacts your ability to communicate with others. And the biggest mistake you could make is trying to talk convincingly and to make your highest priority expressing your feelings and ideas. Is there anything wrong with expressing your feelings and ideas? No. But priority in understanding the people who God has brought under your leadership is not really about expressing your feelings and ideas. It's about understanding what signal is coming from their own end. So as good as expressing yourself is also important to understand that understanding others is also very important. Very, very important. Okay, so it's important. I wrote here, I said understanding people certainly impacts your ability to communicate with others. So when you understand them, your communication with them is made freer than it used to be. It's made freer. Okay, now the third thing I wrote down here, I said what most people really want is to be listened to, 1, to be respected 2, and to be understood 3. What most people want is to be listened to be respected, and to be understood. And then the moment people see that they are being understood, once something happens, they become more motivated to understand your own point of view. Once somebody feels, this person is listening to what I'm saying, this person is understanding, something miraculous, if I may put it that way, they are more open to hear what you have to say and to understand whatever you have to offer. And before you know it, there's understanding, and whatever the situation is resolved, and you move on. Okay, so people are inclined to listen to what you have to say when they have a feeling and an understanding that you are inclined to listen to what they have to say. It's a two-way thing. Now, who should start it first? Who should listen to who first? Let the more mature person start. You are a leader. make it a priority to understand the people you are leading, make it a priority to listen to them, and they will be more inclined to get what you are saying. All right, number 4, if you can learn to understand people, how they think, what they feel in a given situation, you understand what inspires them, you understand how they are likely to act and react in a given situation and all of that, then you are able to motivate them and influence them in a positive way. Still talking about understanding. You should be able to understand or find out what makes people tick, what inspires them. You should be able to understand how they feel. You should be able to understand, how they are likely to react in any given situation. I like being practical about some of these things. If you are in a relationship, you will get to know that over time you get to learn things about the person you are in a relationship with. And then is not magic, it's understanding. You know that this person does not like it when you do this. So you're avoiding to do that particular thing automatically guarantees understanding and, erodes or erases violence or quarrel as long as that stuff is concerned. So he doesn't like it when I come back and my clothes are everywhere. So I arrange my clothes. As long as that scattering is not there, there's understanding. So if I want to get this person angry, what I just need to do is just to scatter my clothes around the house and he's annoyed. You understand what ticks the person off. And being on the positive side now, you are better able to, relate with the person by virtue of understanding what ticks the person off. So if you can understand people, how they think, how they feel, what inspires them, how they are likely to act and react in a given situation, then you are already set up to motivate them and influence them in the right way. Okay? First, you understand them. Even if what is on ground, how they think and how they feel and all of that is not the right thing. Understanding them first in that regard is key to helping you convince them or talk them or, whatever it would take, open their eyes to see that this is not the right thing. I understand this is how you feel. I understand this is how you think, but this thinking is wrong. This is why it is wrong, and this is why this is right. Once they see that you first understand them, and then they see your own point of view and align with it, change is most likely to happen in that kind of environment. Unlike an environment where you are trying to force people, to take down whatever it is you are imposing on them and all of that. When you understand them and they realize that you've understood them, you are better able to motivate them, you are better able to influence their lives to become better than they already are. Now, I already mentioned 4 things. The 5th one, few things will pay. Few things will pay bigger dividends than, dividends that proceeds from understanding people. It pays. It pays. First, it sets a tone that, makes your relationship with people very, very less frictional. It pays, okay? So few things will pay you bigger dividends than the time and trouble, you take to understand people, and nothing will give you greater satisfaction and happiness when you do. So it pays. It pays. The time it takes, the trouble it takes to understand people, because it could be troublesome. It could take your time. Sometimes you might have to do a huge amount of listening and explanation to anybody who is a leader, who is interested in investing and growing people, knows that these are vital aspects of leadership growth, helping people who are under your leadership grow. You must give them time, you must give them attention, you must talk, you must quarrel and, all in a bit to teach them. It could be stressful and all of that, but at the end of the day, when you look at who God has helped you help, who he has become or what he is becoming, you are proud. There's a satisfaction that comes with that. And the basis for all these changes we anticipate is understanding these people. Now, finally, I wrote here, I said, if you can't understand people and work with them, you can't accomplish anything. And you certainly can become a person of influence. So if you can't understand people and work with them, you can't accomplish anything. It's a fact of life. No man is an island. You are where you are because of a combination of relationships that you either took seriously, you either managed well, or did not manage well. You will be where you will be as a result of how you are able to relate with people. And you relate well with people when there is understanding. Relate well with people when there is understanding. A lot of persons, have been denied promotion for one reason or the other, or they are still where they are in an organization because they've not been able to relate well with people. There are 3 relationships everybody has. You have a relationship with your superiors, you have a relationship with your colleagues, and you have a relationship with people who are under you, people who are still coming up, your followers and all of that. These are 3 relationships we must understand, and it takes understanding to be able to run these levels of relationships. You don't treat the people who are following you the same way you treat your colleagues, and you don't treat your colleagues the same way you treat your superiors. Understanding is key in excelling in all these levels of relationships. Okay, now very fast to the next thing. Why do people fail to understand others? We're just laying a foundation so that when we start talking about how you can actually get to understand others, these foundations are there already, and we'll build on them so that you'll be able to go out there and increase or improve your leadership influence by understanding people. First, understanding the people in your life, whether in all manner of relationships, blood relatives, workspace relationships, and all manner of leadership relationships. Okay, so why do people fail to understand others? I'm going to give us a number of reasons. It might not be all there is to it, but it could go a long way to addressing whatever it is you are passing through already, or giving you insight on some other reasons that you could work on and become better in this aspect of leadership. Okay, so why do people fail to understand others? Before we get into that, you must understand that lack of understanding concerning others is a recurrent source of major tensions we have in the world. Major tensions. Take, for instance, people who drag others to the law court and all of that. I wrote here, I said, half, if not more, of all the controversies and conflicts that arise among people are caused not necessarily by the differences in opinions, not necessarily by inability to agree and all of that, but people have not just understood themselves. Because some of the issues that we fall out on are issues we laugh about when there is understanding. Now, if it's all about running with your own opinion and not understanding, then if you have a house where perhaps the husband is an Arsenal fan and the wife is a Man U fan, and if that's how things, if it's normal for things to roll like that, then there will be war in the house every day. But how come, irrespective of their differences, they are still able to live under the same roof? They are still able to eat together. They are still able to do a lot of things together. It's possible because there is understanding. And one of such understanding, in context of the example I'm giving, is that this is football. We have our life outside of football. Most times the things we fall out with people on are things that actually contribute little or nothing to the entirety of our existence. We must learn by understanding to put things where they are. We could be best of friends, and yet we don't agree on a number of things. It's good to have friends that you agree on a number of things with for smooth flow and all of that, but we don't need to agree on 100% everything for us to become friends. And even in the Christian circle, we don't need to agree on everything doctrinally before we can rule. We can still have a relationship. It doesn't mean we agree on everything. We keep working at harmony in understanding and all of that, in harmonizing our doctrinal beliefs and all of that, but it shouldn't affect our relationship. Understanding is key. Understanding is key. We'll still see more things as we move ahead, okay? So lack of understanding concerning others is a recurrent source of tension. Now, I wrote here, I said our law courts, if we get to our law court, we could reduce the number of misunderstandings. The courts wouldn't be crowded and all of that. If understanding is in a place and all of that, then there would be fewer violent crimes. Sometimes when people don't understand themselves, that's what results in fighting. That's what results in fighting, okay? Now, when people don't understand themselves, a lot of things can be bettered. Negative emotions flaring up and all of that. But when there is understanding, these things are reduced. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Sometimes the things we fall out on are actually things that when we come to understand, we laugh about. We laugh about. You want this and I don't want this. So how do we go about it? If you decide to fight about it, that's misunderstanding. If you decide to resolve the issue, there's always a compromise that can be reached. That's understanding in that regard, or whatever context it is. So understanding must be pursued in every of our relationships, in every of our leadership practices and all of that. And it's possible. It's not impossible. It's very, very possible. Okay? So if we could reduce the number of misunderstandings, the courts wouldn't be as crowded as they are, and there will be fewer violent crimes. Even divorce rates will go down. You see a lot of persons who file for divorce and all of that. What's the reason why they don't want to do again? They say we are incompatible. It's actually an understanding problem. most times, maybe not all, but most times, one party is just too rigid, or both of the parties are too rigid. Nobody wants to bend for each other. Sometimes understanding somebody will require your bending, not necessarily compromising your standards and values, but you might need to bend in methods on how you achieve or go about your standards and your values, especially when your standard and values are rooted in the Word of God. They are not to be compromised. They are not to be compromised. Okay. Now, I wrote down here again. I said people fail to understand due to a number of reasons. Now, we're now going to be getting into the various points. I think I have about 4 of them or so. Why people misunderstand others. And we're going to continue from there when we come back from this very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi there, you're welcome back from this very short break. We've been talking about how to understand others in order to grow our leadership influence. And I trust it's been educative. I trust you've been learning a lot already. Your eyes been open to the things you need to understand. Now, we're going to dig right into it. Why do people misunderstand others? Number one is fear. Most people are masters in misunderstanding others because they are afraid of certain things, perhaps certain signals that flow from the person to them, or some internal things that no other person knows about. Okay? Now, when we don't understand others, they react most times by being afraid, especially when it becomes a recurrent misunderstanding. We have practical examples. Most times, the reason why we don't tell our parents the things we are to tell them is because over time, maybe you've tried to tell them that there is this boy in our class that just said something to me. And so you want to become pregnant, Abi? That's how you want to useless your life. You've not said that. You are just airing your view and you already misunderstood. So when next something crucial happens, you find it difficult. The word there is fear. You are afraid to communicate it to your father or to your mother simply because you wouldn't want to be misunderstood like you were misunderstood the last time. Okay, so most people are afraid. Most people, fail to understand others because of fear. Because of fear. Now, unfortunately, I said fear is evident in the workplace when it comes to employees' reaction toward their leaders. This one is very predominant in most of our relationships, especially in the employer-employee situation. Okay, where you have laborers, being afraid of the managers, you have the managers being afraid of the senior managers, and then you have every other person, the laborer, the manager, and all of that, being afraid of the top guys, the executives. They are afraid for a number of reasons. One of those reasons could be, they don't want to get fired. And most of their fears stem from either past actions from these persons. Maybe some people are afraid to understand what you are saying because they are afraid of, or rather, you have a track record of misunderstanding them over the times. Okay, so it should be watched, it should be checked. And then when this whole scenario is experienced in the workplace, you discover that undue suspicion is the order of the day, lack of understanding kicks in and all of that, communication is affected, and ultimately productivity is affected. Understanding is very, very important, especially for you as a leader, and if you must increase or improve your leadership influence. Now, still in the workplace, a number of things that gets the employers or employees rather afraid of communicating, and once they are afraid of you, whatever is coming from you to them is distorted. They feel your communication is biased, even if you have genuine interest, because you've set that record on ground already that you don't understand them and you don't want to. It could be an attitudinal message you've sent out. They are already affected, and whatever is flowing from you to them is distorted. Why? They are afraid of what your reaction will be. First of all, they could be afraid of being rejected, their ideas being rejected. They could be afraid that even if they bring out ideas that will move the company forward or the organization forward, you might take credit for them for it without referencing them, without bothering to bring them up as people who brought the ideas and all of that. They could be afraid that if they bring forth an idea, you could be threatened by the ideas. all these things in themselves might not be the truth of what's obtainable from your own end, but it could be the message you've been sending. It could be what you've been doing. So there's a challenge in understanding when fear is in place. If you're afraid of somebody, you are most likely to misunderstand whatever the person is doing, because you feel the person doesn't have your interest at heart, you feel the person is out to hurt you, and you feel the person is out to excel at your own expense. Okay? So fear is one of the major reasons. Now, I said when you look at all the things we've mentioned, fear is the underlying factor. In the same way, when a good environment, a healthy atmosphere is created in an organization where there is no fear, everybody is flowing with each other, you discover that things become better, productivity increases. People are not afraid to bring their ideas on the table because they are not worried whether you will do the right thing or not. They believe that we are a team and you have their best interest at heart. Okay? Now, when we understand the other person's viewpoint and understand what he is trying to do, most times he's trying to do right. This is very, very important. Most people who are doing what they are doing or saying what they are saying do it with the intention to do the right thing. That's why it's important to understand them. And that's why most people shrink back when you misunderstand them, because they have it at heart to do good. So when you just come and lash it out on them and all of that, they recoil. And whatever ideas they have, they will be afraid to bring it on the desk. So you owe it to them to understand them first. And then when you understand their intent, understand why they want to do what they want to do, you are in a position to tell them, thank you for what you want to do, but this is not actually going to yield the desired results. First, they feel loved. They know that you accept whatever ideas they have. They know you understand what they have, what they wanted to do, and why they wanted to do what they wanted to do. And then you are better able to steer them in the right direction of what you think is the best thing that they should do. Understanding is at the root of all of this. Now, the second reason why most people fail to understand others is self-centeredness. People are so focused on themselves. I wrote here, I said, when fear isn't a stumbling block to understanding, self-centeredness kicks in. And then someone remarked and said something. He said, there are two sides to every question, as long as it doesn't concern you personally. That's the kind of life most people live. The judge kind of life. When a question comes to you that does not concern you, you tend to see the two sides. Ah, it's true. Ah, you are right. Ah, no. It can be this way, it can be that way. But when it involves you, we tend to see things from one lens. A lens that suggests if I have nothing to benefit, then I should find a way around this thing so that I'll benefit. So most times we are not as truthful and as honest as we should be on questions or on issues or on circumstances, especially when we are involved. Especially when it has to do with something that will call us out as wrong, or something that will call us out as incompetent, or something that will, not give us desired results that will favor us, that will put us at the same page, on the same page of excellence, or on the same page of reward with our superiors and all of that. But we must learn to move past self-centeredness and see things from the other person's perspective. Now, how do we overcome self-centeredness? It's very simple. We must learn to see things from the perspective of others first. Learn to see things from how people see things first. When they are presenting it to you, don't be too quick to just see it from your own end and counter it. Put yourself in the shoes of the person who is telling you whatever, and you are better able to understand them. Now, if we are facing ourselves opposite to ourselves, and we write a very big 6 on the ground. Now, from your own end, you are seeing 9. From my own end, I'm seeing 6. The two of us are actually very correct. The issue there is point of view, or viewpoint rather. The point, your perspective, like where you are standing and seeing whatever you are seeing. So in understanding and to overcome self-centeredness, we must learn to see things from the other person's point of view, and things will become better, okay? Now, naturally, the natural man, everybody is self-centered, but most times we are not self-centered on purpose. So everyone is not self-centered on purpose. It's just in the nature of people to think of their own interests first. That's why we have challenges with most of our leaders in different nations and all of that. When they get into positions of power, they tend to amass wealth for themselves. Naturally, people think of themselves first. But we are not talking about what is obtainable to you as a natural man. We are talking about what the right thing is to do as a leader and as God's creation. You must learn to move past your selfishness and think of others. You must learn to move past that, okay? Now, you must learn to see things from other people's perspectives, and our greatest challenge as a leader is to see things from the point of view of our followers, who will be able to understand them better that way. Now, changing your attitudes from self-centeredness and understanding requires desire. It requires commitment to always try to see things from the other person's point of view. Very, very important. Don't forget that. Always try to see things from the person's point of view, the person you are talking to, the person you are leading and all of that. Try to see things from their own end. And then you are better able to understand them and present your own end, and together you can work something out. Number 3, why do people fail to understand? People fail to understand others because we fail to appreciate our differences. We fail to appreciate our differences, okay? Now, we must learn to recognize and respect everyone's unique qualities. No two persons are the same. No two persons think alike. Even if there are situations where you have two persons thinking alike and a number of similarities and all, you must bear in mind that I am me and you are you. So when we are talking about something or trying to reach an agreement on something, don't lose sight of that. We are different. Perhaps we grew up from different backgrounds. Perhaps we went to different schools. We were taught by different teachers. We are different. We are not the same. Okay? Now, if somebody is different from you, try to see a way to harness, the differences to become, to make something good out of that. Okay? So instead of trying to cast others in your image, learn to appreciate their differences. If others come from a different culture, learn to broaden your mind. Learn to learn from whatever is coming from their end. Learn to celebrate people's temperaments. Everybody cannot be as introverted as you, and everybody cannot be as extroverted as you are. Learn to celebrate others' differences, okay? And with all these temperaments, differences comes difference in thinking and all of that. We must appreciate that. Once you learn to appreciate others' differences, you come to realize that there are many responses to leadership and how to motivate people. What worked for this person might not work for this person. There is no one straight way to dealing with all the people under your followership. Now, finally, as we round up, why do people fail to understand? People fail to understand because we fail to acknowledge our similarities. We are similar in a number of ways as individuals. How do I mean? You are likely to react emotionally to something as much as I am to the same thing. Okay, I wrote down here, I said, as you learn more about people and get to know others well, you soon realize that people have a lot in common. We all have hopes and fears. We all have joys and sorrows. We all have victories and we have problems. Now, all people have emotional reactions to what's happening around them. And to foster understanding, we must think of what our emotions would be if we were in the same position as the person you are interacting with. How would you feel if they treat you the way you are treating others? How would you feel? Now, chances are that the person you are working with has same feelings as you are currently feeling, when you think of that. So to understand the person, somebody is telling you, I was raped, I was attacked and all of that. When you put yourself in the person's situation, it must be painful. It must have been hurtful and all of that. Chances are that most of those feelings you anticipated you felt, the other persons felt it too. When you understand that, you are better able to understand what the person is passing through and how the person is feeling. With all these things put together and still more to go, maybe from the next episode, we trust you've gotten a number of educative stuffs that you can apply and grow your leadership influence. So we'll come your way next time. Keep growing in your leadership influence. Keep making deliberate efforts to understand the people God has brought under your leadership. And in no time, you'll become the best there is in that aspect and be able to influence others positively to become who God has designed them to become. Thank you very much. God bless you.